Hello everyone, I'm Maria and welcome or welcome back to my Nook. Today I want to talk about all the books that I have read in May and in June, but first let's talk about the books I've read in May. And the first book I finished was The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. The reason why I'm saying it this way is because I still can't quite believe that I've actually finally finished that book. The Wise Man's Fear is the second book in the Kingkiller Chronicles series and the sequel to The Name of the Wind, which I had read in January for the Wyverns and Words book club. And I had started reading The Wise Man's Fear right after finishing The Name of the Wind, so at the end of January. But I only finished it at the beginning of May. And that is because I read it as a sort of like side read next to other books. So I kept like putting it down, reading other books, and then picking it up again, that sort of thing. I do feel like that was a beneficial way of reading it because I feel like it allowed me to enjoy it more. Both The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear are bricks and they're slow-paced books. The Wise Man's Fear is like 1,088 pages long and the audiobook is 43 hours long. 43 hours, that is wild. Like, it's slow and Patrick Rothfuss has a lot to say about Quoth's story. Quoth is the main character in that series. So back when I read The Name of the Wind, I was kind of on a schedule because I wanted to finish it for the book club, and therefore I wasn't able to put the book down when it was getting a bit boring or when it was dragging a bit. But while reading The Wise Man's Fear, I was able to do that, and I was able to read other books in the meantime and then pick The Wise Man's Fear up again. So I genuinely felt like that made it possible for me to enjoy the book more, even though it was just as slow as The Name of the Wind. We were seeing more of Quoth's story, obviously, more of him at the university, getting up to lots of shenanigans with his friends, lots of studying, obviously, lots of traveling, and him doing music and finding out more about other cultures and all that, which was all very interesting and I really enjoyed it. But again, it was very slow-paced. Oftentimes I felt a bit as if I was sitting down with an old friend and just him telling me about his life and what's been going on in his life lately, that sort of thing, or like telling me about his past. So once I finished The Wise Man's Fear, I almost felt a bit as if I was saying goodbye to an old friend, which was a very odd feeling because I did not enjoy The Name of the Wind that much. Like, it was okay, but I felt like if it had been less slow, I would have enjoyed it more and rated it higher. And I do feel like the same was also the case with The Wise Man's Fear, but I still enjoyed it more than the first book, if that makes any sense. I borrowed The Wise Man's Fear from my library because I did not, in fact, enjoy The Name of the Wind that much as to justify buying The Wise Man's Fear. If I'm being honest, now that I've enjoyed The Wise Man's Fear as much as I did, I'm kind of thinking of maybe buying it secondhand at some point. But I'm still just thinking about it. But like, just to put that out there, you know? After finishing the first book, I didn't really care that much about the fact that the third book in the series hasn't come out for years and might never come out, and that the chance of it ever coming out is slimming every year. But now, after finishing the second book, I kind of do care. I kind of do want to read the third book. And if it ever comes out, I probably will read the third book. And the second book, The Wise Man's Fear, alone changed my opinion on that. Which is kind of odd, because that book was even longer than The Name of the Wind. But it is what it is. I enjoyed The Wise Man's Fear more than I enjoyed The Name of the Wind. I still have a lot of questions about Quoth and his life, and what's going on and what else is going to happen, and how his story will end, or if it will end at the end of the third book. Who knows? But yeah, I think I'm giving The Wise Man's Fear 4 stars. And again, if it hadn't been this slow, I would have maybe even rated it higher. Next up, I finished another Ranger's Apprentice book, namely the fourth one in the series, Oakleaf Bearers by John Flanagan. I believe in some countries this is called The Battle for Scandia, if I'm not mistaken. And since this is the fourth book in the series and the last book in that first story arc, I don't think I can say much about what's going on in this book, but I can tell you that there is one character that was already part of the third book. Actually, they were already part of the second book. And in the second book, I kind of really disliked them because of their actions. And then in the third book, I was like, I think you're kind of okay. But now, at the end of the fourth book, I was actually rooting for them. And I have no idea how that happened and how John Flanagan did that. But it did happen. And I kind of like that. I kind of enjoyed that. But to be honest, there's something about this book that I kind of enjoyed less than the other books so far. I can't really put my finger on it. It's been quite a while since I finished this book and I still cannot figure it out. But it's just that at the beginning of the book, I was happy to be back in this world and back with the characters, as I always am when I continue a series that I enjoy. And then that joy kind of died down and it only picked up again at page 270 or something. 250 or 270-ish. And this book only has 327 pages. So fairly towards the end. And all that middle part was just, it wasn't bad, but I didn't fully enjoy it. I don't know, I don't know, if I'm being honest. There were still a lot of aspects that I loved in this book and a lot of scenes that I loved and enjoyed, a lot of things that I've tapped, but yeah, at the end, I just kind of did not enjoy it as much as the other books. So I think I'll give Oakleaf Bearers 3.75 stars. Sorry in case the camera angle changed a little, the battery of my camera ran out. But the next books I want to talk about are two graphic novels. They were called The Tea Dragon Society and The Tea Dragon Festival, both by Kay O'Neill. I had borrowed them from my library, so you will have to make do with the pictures on the screen. In these graphic novels, there are these tiny domestic dragons that basically grow tea leaves or tea blossoms or whatever, in their fur or on their little horns or whatever. And there's peppermint tea dragons and chamomile tea dragons and Earl Grey tea dragons and all that. I did a whole reading vlog on these graphic novels, not just these graphic novels, but I filmed a reading vlog in which I read these graphic novels, so I can link that down below. And I mentioned a more in-depth opinion on them there. But these graphic novels were just so incredibly lovely and sweet and wholesome and so just gentle and peaceful, and I loved them a whole lot. I enjoyed them very, very much. They were beautiful and yeah, just very, very wholesome. So I can definitely recommend them. I am genuinely hoping that my library will acquire a copy of the third book in this like companion series that is called The Tea Dragon, and my library does not have a copy of it yet. So I'm waiting on that and then I will read that because I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, I can definitely recommend these graphic novels, and maybe I'll look at other graphic novels by Kay O'Neill at some point. And obviously I'm giving these 5 stars because I am not that picky about my ratings for graphic novels usually, and these were just so lovely and wholesome and everything I expected and more. So yeah, 5 stars. Last but absolutely not least, the book I finished last in May was Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is the sequel to Six of Crows, and so far the last book in the Six of Crows duology. I think there is a third book planned, but it hasn't come out yet. There's no news about it yet. So yeah. Now this one, woo-wee! In the reading vlog that I have just mentioned, I also read this book, so you can also check that reading vlog out if you want a more in-depth opinion on this book. I'll try to keep my review about it short in this video. Just like in Six of Crows, I really enjoyed the characters. I loved them a lot. I enjoyed their banter and their dynamics so much. Leigh Bardugo really did that so well, and I just loved their like scheming and planning and all that stuff. There was a part where I was just starting to get a tiny bit bored, and then boom, action happened and I was not bored at all anymore. Big parts of this book were an emotional roller coaster, let me tell you that, but it was the good kind, you know what I mean? Like, it was stressful, but I enjoyed it. There were little snippets of characters from the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I really enjoyed that as well. And then towards the end, all their scheming and planning was like tied together, and it was all coming together and making sense, and I was like, oh, this is so good. I enjoyed that part so much. When everything was like being woven together and suddenly everything was clearing up for the reader, it made me so happy. I was stomping my feet with happiness because of how much I was enjoying that, seriously. At the end, I liked what Leigh Bardugo did with most of the main characters. There was one ending that I did not enjoy, but I've talked long enough about that in my reading vlog, so I'm not going to talk more about it now. All in all, this book still made me realize how much of a sucker I am for the found family trope mixed with this trope of like a group of mismatched people goes on missions together for a common goal, that type of situation. I did enjoy this book a lot, but ultimately it just did not quite hit the 5-star mark for me, and I do feel like I enjoyed Six of Crows more. Like, just a bit, you know? It was just not quite there. So I'm giving Crooked Kingdom 4.5 stars. And now with that, let's jump ahead to all the books that I have read in June. The first book I finished in June was Happy Place by Emily Henry. Now this book was one of my most anticipated releases in 2023. I have so far read 3 of Emily Henry's other books: Beach Read, People We Meet on Vacation, and Book Lovers. I read them all last year in 2022, and Beach Read was actually the book that got me back into reading, so it holds a very, very special place in my heart, which is also one of the reasons why I was really looking forward to reading Happy Place. Now, the thing is, I am kind of disappointed in this book, or maybe not exactly disappointed, but I'm very, very sad that I did not love it or enjoy it as much as I expected to, or as I thought I would. And the thing is, it's not a bad book, not at all. At first, I was really enjoying being back with Emily Henry's writing and getting to read about her characters again, because she's very good at writing characters that feel very real, and relationships and friendships that feel very real, in my opinion. So I really enjoyed that at first, but the thing is, as I kept reading, I kept waiting for this sort of spark to jump over between Happy Place and me, and I kept waiting for me to progressively start liking the book more and more, and for there to be this moment where I just go, okay, yes, I love this book. But that just never happened. In fact, I sort of started disliking the book more and more while I kept reading, and towards the end I was actually even struggling a bit to just finish the book, which makes me really, really sad. I just never really got that giddy, happy feeling that I normally get when reading romance books, or that I get when I'm really enjoying books. I did enjoy this book at times because, again, like, the friendships were great and the banter was good, and I also did like the characters. By the way, I didn't even say what this book was about, but I suppose many of you know anyway. This book is about Harriet and Wynne, who had been together. They had even been engaged, but then they broke up, but they haven't told their friend group about it yet. They have a friend group together, like the same friends. And the thing is that this friend group goes on an annual friend vacation trip thingy, and well, they haven't told their friends yet that they broke up, so their friends think they're still together, and now Harriet and Wynne have to kind of act like they're still together. That sort of thing. And I was really interested in that, but yeah, I don't know, it just didn't really hit for me. I was also really struggling to kind of grasp what exactly it is that's not clicking for me with Happy Place, because I really loved Emily Henry's writing in the past, and I've seen a lot of people love Happy Place on the internet. But then I watched a reading vlog of another YouTuber, Cassandra Lynn, and she said something. I know I've been using this quote a lot and in a lot of places, but I feel like it's just a really good quote, and it really hits the nail on the head when it comes to how I felt about Happy Place. She said that she was ready for a straight punch, not a left hook, but she got a left hook. And that is basically exactly how I felt with this book. It was just not what I thought I would get and what I expected to get. I mean, I know that Emily Henry does not exactly write fluffy romance books. There's always some sort of heavy topic in her books, but there was so much just underlying tension in this book all of the time, I felt like. And the thing is, I already have that in my daily life. I already have that exact type of stress in my daily life all the time. I don't need it in my books, especially not when I pick up a book in order to escape from reality and from my real life. Like, obviously sometimes I pick up books for other reasons, but when I pick up books to escape from my real life, I don't want them to be too realistic. And that's kind of what this book felt like. There was just so much tension that I did not enjoy at all. So yeah, all in all, it's not a bad book. Most of the sentences, even the smallest words, felt very deliberate, but I'm just very, very sad that I did not love it or enjoy it as much as I expected to. So I think I'll give Happy Place 3.5 stars. Next up, I finished a book that I genuinely really enjoyed. I filmed the whole reading vlog on this book that's already up on my channel. I'll link it down below, so I'll try to keep my review in this video short. It's A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. And that is the first book in the Veronica Speedwell series. I saw the series in a lot of Katie's readings vlogs lately, and she was talking so highly about it that I really thought I should check this out. So I did, and I was not disappointed at all. I loved it so much. The first book is about Veronica Speedwell, obviously, the main character in the book. Basically, almost being abducted and then meeting the other main character, Stoker, and then they sort of become amateur detectives and try to solve a case. I suppose that's some sort of synopsis for this. I don't really know how to put it all into just a few sentences, what happened in that book, because there were a lot of random situations, let me tell you. First of all, I want to say that Veronica and Stoker's relationship was so good. Their banter, their dynamics was so good. Their interactions, just chef's kiss. It was so good. I know that the series is like a very slow burn kind of romance series with this mystery aspect, and it's historical fiction also. It takes place in, I think it started in 1887. I don't know how much further into the future it will go along the series, but it started in 1887 and I loved it so much. The mystery did not take up that much, I felt like, in the first book, but it was still pretty good in my opinion. And yeah, just Veronica and Stoker were the main part of that book, and that part was amazing. I enjoyed it so much. I had so many good laughs, and I highlighted so many things that they said. They both have so many like tiny quirks, I could call them, that make them feel so human and so real. Basically, like Stoker is such a sweet tooth, and Veronica is so passionately curious all the time, which I love so much about her. And Stoker has a dog named Huxley and all that sort of stuff. That book actually gave me that giddy, happy type of feeling, so that was incredibly great. It was a really awesome reading experience. I just loved it a lot, so I'll give A Curious Beginning 5 stars. I also read a novella this month, which was The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. Now this is sort of part of the Kingkiller Chronicles series, but not really, I guess. It's about one of the side characters from the first and second book of the Kingkiller Chronicles series, and I did read the first and second book this year. And now in this novella, again, it's about one of the side characters, Ori, and she lives in an underground area, and in this novella we basically just see what she gets up to in her daily life and how she sees the world. Especially that is a huge part of this novella, because she sees the world quite differently, I would say, than I see the world. I can only speak for myself right now, obviously. But I have also already discussed this in a reading blog, which I can also link down below. And I found this very interesting, very poetic in some way. I couldn't really describe how, but somehow it was a bit poetic. I did enjoy it, even though it wasn't exactly the easiest read. But yeah, I gave The Slow Regard of Silent Things 3.5 stars. I do feel like I maybe would have rated it a bit higher if it hadn't been so very slow. Like, I feel like Patrick Rothfuss just always has a lot to say, and other authors maybe would have been able to like put the same content into less pages. I don't know. I just sometimes feel like that. But yeah, 3.5 stars for The Slow Regard of Silent Things. And after that, I read a book that I started in the same reading vlog in which I finished The Slow Regard of Silent Things. It was Erak's Ransom by John Flanagan, which is the 7th book in the Ranger's Apprentice series. It makes sense because you're supposed to like read the 7th book between the 4th and the 5th, because by publishing order it came out as the 7th book, but if you go by the chronological order of the events, it's the 4th book, then the 7th book, and then the 5th book. Hope that made sense. Now in this book, somebody gets captured and Will and his companions try to save them, and not everything goes according to plan. Maybe that's how I can tell you what goes on in this without spoiling anything, because it's sort of hard to, especially because this is the 7th book in the series. But anyway, this book was so good. Honestly, I enjoyed it so much. I laughed out loud so many times. The tension in this book had me on the edge of my seat so many times in so many parts. The humor and the banter was so good. It was so good. The friend group that is together in this book, I love them so much. I love them so much. I've tabbed quite a few things and quotes and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed this book. If I'm being honest, it might be one of my favorite Ranger's Apprentice books that I've read so far. Maybe even the favorite, actually. I mean, I've only read 7 of the books so far, but like from the books that I've read, this is very high on top of my favorite lists, I would say, because I enjoyed it so much, seriously. Also, I gotta say, first of all, that epilogue, I loved it so much. I loved that epilogue so much. But on the same note, I am not quite ready yet for Will to be a fully fledged ranger in the next book, because that's what he's going to be. But that's fine, I'll be fine. Anyway, as for a rating for Erak's Ransom, I think I'll give this book 4.5 stars because I genuinely enjoyed it a whole lot. It wasn't quite there at a 5-star rating, but it was really good in my opinion. And last but absolutely not least, I finished the second book in the Veronica Speedwell series, A Perilous Undertaking by Deanna Raybourn. I actually finished that book today, mere hours ago, and I am already filming this reading wrap-up. Honestly, there's like 4 full days left in June, and I really don't believe that I'm going to finish another book this month, so that's why I'm filming this already. Also, because I might not otherwise have time anymore before I want to have this video go live. And it's maybe not a good idea to film this video just a couple of hours after finishing that book, but here we are, I guess. So in this book, Veronica and Stoker are getting hired by somebody to investigate a murder and prove that the person who was convicted for that murder did not actually commit it. Did that make sense? Sometimes I'm so bad at putting into words what books are about and like keeping it brief. So I really hope that made any sense. So at the beginning of the book, I already felt like we were off to a great start. And then throughout the book, obviously we got great banter, great dynamics and interactions between Veronica and Stoker, and it was amazing. There were so many just so incredibly random situations, but it was so funny and entertaining. I loved it so much. I really enjoyed kind of trying to piece things together myself and sort of trying to figure the case out by myself as well. There was one scene that I did not like at first because I have personal issues with those type of scenes. And I can't even mention what type of scene it was because it would be a spoiler. But I had issues with it at first. And then something else happened. And something about Stoker's past was revealed. And I was gasping. That was so good. Like, not just what was revealed, but the way it was revealed. Oh my god, that was so good. I love that so much. And in general, a few things about Veronica's and Stoker's pasts have been mentioned or uncovered, I guess. A lot of things happen in this book, let me tell you, and I love them a lot. There was a twist at the end that I genuinely did not see coming, and then Stoker did something that had me shooketh. But it was so good. And another thing I really liked about this book was the fact that it was evident in the narrative that Stoker and Veronica are still amateur detectives, and they were also so aware of it. There was one scene where the person that hired them to investigate this whole business was like, oh my god, I cannot believe you're acting like amateurs. And Veronica was like, you are forgetting that we are in fact amateurs. And I was like, I love that, because there is so much media in which amateur detectives are just somehow winging it and nailing it at investigating these cases. And I'm like, how do you do this? I mean, I'm a smart person, but I still don't think I would be able to investigate crime cases and solve them just like that. You know what I mean? Without having a training of some sorts. So I like that Veronica and Stoker are aware of it. And in general, I just really enjoyed this book. I did feel like the mystery was moving a bit more slowly than it did in the first book. Granted, in the first book, the mystery was less of a plot point than it was in the second book, I feel like. I could be incorrect because, again, I just finished this book like a few hours ago, so I haven't really had that much time to process what happened. But yeah, I just feel like it was moving a bit slower, but I still really enjoyed it, so I'll give 4 stars. And with that, I will let you guys go because those were all the books that I have read in May and in June. I really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did, maybe give this video a thumbs up or subscribe. Maybe let me know in the comments which books you have read in May or in June, and maybe tell me which one was your favorite. I would love to know. Otherwise, I will see you guys somewhere else on the internet. Bye!